Thank you.
Dallas Craft and the Renegade Monks, everybody. So week 6 of this book study on The World Could Be Otherwise. And so we're looking at this final, in the Buddhist tradition, they call it perfections. So we're looking at the final perfection of the 6th one, of understanding. And understanding, as sort of is being held by Norman Fischer, is we're talking about our capacity to be able to discern the true nature of reality. And as Dallas so beautifully sang, we get lost in that, right? We think time is real and we get lost. So we are taking our power of imagination and we are applying it to these 6 quote-unquote perfections: generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, meditation, and understanding. And we're holding the idea that Norman Fischer has put forward that we are all so he's holding Buddha not as a person, holding Buddha as the cosmic energy of love, right? Cosmic principle of love, sorry, which is exactly how we hold the Christ consciousness, right? It's the cosmic principle. So we're not thinking so much about the person who was Buddha, but we are thinking about it from the metaphysical interpretation, which is the principle of love, and that we are all here to be bodhisattvas, right? Oh, I got ahead of myself. We're all here to be bodhisattvas. We're all Buddhas in training. We got our little training wheels on. Anybody feel like they skid and they fall over sometimes? But we are all bodhisattvas in training, and these 6 perfections is a pathway for us to be able to show up as this compassionate being who is devoted to the benefit of others. And I talked last week about how that paradoxical thing about how meditation helps us to focus narrowly, and when that happens, we actually get an expanded understanding. And the same thing is true within us, right? We're being invited to step beyond our own little inner stuff. Anybody here get caught up in their inner stuff? And to actually focus on how we can be a benefit to the world around us. So we're talking about understanding, right? Norman Fischer says, a profound knowing of the true nature of reality, which allows us to act with clarity and compassion. Now, understanding in Unity's teaching is one of our powers, right? We have 12 powers, and one of them is understanding. And how understanding is described by Linda Martello-Whitsitt in Divine Audacity is cultivating wisdom and discerning spiritual insights, comprehending what's real and unreal, what's eternal and temporary. Isn't it amazing how they seem to line up? Right? We're all pointing at the same thing. No matter what the language that we're using, we're all pointing at the same thing. So Norman Fischer introduced last week the idea of the tripod, the Buddhist tripod. And the 3 legs are very sturdy when they're all strong. But when one of them isn't strong, you can fall over. And the tripod is understanding, meditation, and ethical conduct. And I made the parallel to our affirmative prayer practice, which is that understanding is when we realize the truth of reality, God is. Meditation is when we get to spend time and understand the I am that we all are. And ethical conduct is what we are actually doing in the world. So the tripod actually represents how we in Unity understand how we're being called to show up. God is, I am, therefore I can. And it's our 5th principle, right? That we are the presence of God in action. That we are here to actually be be something in time and space, not to just sit on our cushion or to sit back on what we already know. As Debbie, the reading said, right? I reserve the right to change my mind. And embracing that. If you look at Charles Fillmore's writings, our founder, one of our founders, along with his wife Myrtle, when you look at Charles's writings over the decades that he wrote, he contradicts himself all the time because he was growing in his understanding, and he wasn't afraid to step into a new understanding and explore it, and then it would grow and evolve again. So Norman says that meditation and understanding go together, right? And understanding arises when meditation is developed. So part of what Fisher is saying in this is that understanding is not something we get. Understanding arises from the other perfections. Understanding arises from our practice. Understanding is not something we can do. You can't do understanding. It's something that as we step into the practice, it begins to arise within us. So Unity puts it this way. Charles says, make your mind receptive to the higher understanding through silent meditations and affirmations of truth. The earnest desire to understand spiritual things will open the way, and revelation within and without will follow. Revelation within and without will follow. Now remember, in Unity, what we understand revelation to be, it means to reveal. And what we are always seeking to reveal in Unity is our Christ nature, our Buddha self. So it is through our spiritual practice that begins to become apparent. And what I love is it's within and without. It's not just something that we sit with in our own inner world. We are being invited to then step out in the world with our new understanding. So we do this with this imaginative spiritual practice we've been in for 6 weeks. So generosity. The core of generosity is this forgiveness and gratitude practices. Patience. The core of this is that being emotionally aware, right? Bringing patience to your own emotional life so you're not stepping into reactivity. And being present with pain. Not avoiding it, not trying to go around it. Just allowing yourself to be patient with the pain. Ethical conduct. That is our authentic actions that are arising from our understanding of truth, not the actions that arise from fear and lack and unworthiness. So we're making aligned choices. We are choosing from our values. And that can put us in opposition to how other people are making choices. Well, Chris and I saw Wicked on Friday night. And, you look at Glinda and you look at Elphaba, and Elphaba is honoring the choices, what she's hearing, what she knows is true. And Glinda's journey is how she's wrestling with the fact that if she honors what she feels inside, she's not going to get what she wants, which is to be popular, right? If you know the song, Popular. But she wants that elevated, she wants people to like her. Any people pleasers in here? And when we're focused on that, we can get lost and we make choices from our place of pain and anger that have reverberations, that have consequences. And then joyful effort. And I will say this last chapter was a joyful effort for me. And that's good, right? Like, we want to note where we're feeling spiritually lazy. Where are we just sort of sitting back and kind of letting it all ride. And then we are actively looking for ways to support our joy. Those moments when you feel joy, are you doing enough of that? Are you actually resourcing and renewing yourself? And joyful effort takes into account that sometimes we have to do things that aren't like the first thing on our list to do. But that doesn't mean that they don't have incredible value. And that doesn't mean that we aren't called to do it. So can you feel how when all of these line up and we have meditation and affirmative prayer sort of anchoring everything, that we truly are on the bodhisattva path. We truly are accessing what's available to us. So here's my joyful effort. To the Buddhists, the true nature of reality is emptiness. Emptiness. I spent a lot of time sitting with this week. What does this really mean? And it's pretty cool, actually. So is everyone willing to bear with me to get into this? Because I know it's a little esoteric, and it sort of gets into very Buddhist, like koan things, you know? So we're just going to breathe through it as best we can. But this is what I got from it. I'm going to put it that way, right? I'm not an expert on this, but this is how I understood what I was getting. That beings, meaning us and the animals, anything that's living, thoughts, things, ideas, feelings, they're all deception. Because existence is an illusion. Now, this aligns with what we believe in unity. We talk about the relative world and the realm of the absolute. So the relative world is always changing, always shifting. It's not a constant. And in the Buddhist understanding, they say it's an illusion. He uses the example of a balloon. So a balloon looks full and big, but in reality, it's empty of substance. But then he goes on to say, this is where the Buddhist thing kind of, your mind starts to go twisty. He says, yeah, but to say that things don't exist isn't right either, right? Because we touch things, we feel things, we eat things, right? There is this sense. So this idea that being, just being, is a paradox. Now, we would call it the paradox of being divinely human, right? Our divinity and our humanness. So he talks about how what we often try to do because of this paradox is we try to go deeper into our awareness of ourself. We do all this self-help work. We try to understand ourself. And I thought this was really powerful. He says, the analysis of self just leads to more self. Right? So it doesn't uncover what is real, it leads to more illusion. I really need us to breathe into this, because this is kind of huge. This idea that we can focus so much on ourself that all we're actually doing is perpetuating our own suffering. He also goes on to say, if your practice is all about self-investigation, then what about everyone else? And here's where emptiness comes back in. Emptiness is what leads to connection. And I read that, I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get this. But it does, because I kind of got it. I think I got it. So he asks a question. If a being is empty, what is it empty of? It's a very Buddhist question. Can you feel that, right? And they call the thing that it's empty of own being. Everybody say it, because these terms are crazy. Own being, right? So they say that beings are empty of own being because they have no independent intrinsic essence. A tree, so this example made sense to me. A tree does not have its own being as it depends on various factors: the soil, the sun, sunlight, right? Water. Is this making sense to everyone? Its existence isn't independent. It has interbeing. So everybody say it, interbeing. Right? Interbeing. So what we perceive as our permanent, independent self, because we love our self-identity, don't we? It actually doesn't have own being either. There is only interbeing. Own self is the illusion. Interbeing is the true reality. Now, how we would translate this in unity would be separation and oneness. Can you feel that? When we feel separate, it's because we think we're alone. We think we're independent. We think that we are somehow the thing itself. Our little self is struggling. But when we open up to the awareness that there is only one power, one presence, there's one life, that we are it, we move from own being, which is an illusion, to interbeing, which is the very truth of all there is. Does that seem to make sense to everyone? Whew, I'll tell you, joyful effort. So, it means that everything is empty of own being, and everything is full of interbeing. He says this, I love what he says here. He says, they, meaning beings, are full of connection, full of one another. They are so radically interdependent that they cannot exist as separate entities. There is, in fact, no things. There is only the endless ebb and flow of being. I love that. This idea of interbeing, the interbeing comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. Right, what to call the opposite of non-being. And Thich Nhat Hanh crafted this term, interbeing, which I just think is great. So what this brought up for me is how unity understands interbeing, and it would be through the power of love. And how unity defines love is, it's the idea of universal unity. Love is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony the universe and everything in it. Sounds like interbeing to me, yes? The interconnectedness that is all life. That we are not separate from. We are not independent of it. We are we're all in the mix together. I know that's frustrating for some people in our lives, but we're all in this together. So, Norman Fisher agrees. He says, of course love and understanding go together. Love creates space for understanding to arise, and the reverse is also true. Again, we're all pointing at the same thing. So let's just take a look at how unity understands love and understanding. This is from the unity perspective of the 12 powers, right? Love is our ability to harmonize, attract, and unify. It's how we harmonize our thoughts, words, and actions, and it's how we behold the divine in ourselves and in others. And understanding is our ability to know, perceive, and comprehend so that we can gain insight into spiritual truth and the nature of reality. We can realize our own divine identity. Now, what I love is, I often combine powers, and I talk about how you can combine powers together. So when we combine love and understanding, what we get is the power of presence. That we can shine the light in every circumstance. That we can be a compassionate presence. That we can share the gift of our spiritual awareness with the world. Is that not the definition of a bodhisattva? Oh, come on, folks, this is exciting. How it all comes together. You got to get excited with me. I was like, oh my goodness, look at how this all... You're getting a vision of my brain right now, right? I'm like, oh, it all fits. This is what we have to remember. This is the whole point of why we're here. I really believe this is why we're here. I believe, people say, why are we here? This is why we're here. This is why we're here. Stop asking why, just practice. Stop trying to figure out why, just practice. He says we're only human, but we're also more. We each have to take ourselves less seriously as the person we think we are, and more seriously as the bodhisattva we also surely are. Yeah. It's this idea, right? That we're all Buddha in potential. That is our true nature. We are all here to reveal the Christ Buddha presence. We are all here to learn together. And the training wheels that we're all on is each other, right? I mean, that's the thing. Or somebody was describing something at the annual. I was at last week. I was on retreat with the region, and Jim Blake, who is the head of Unity World Headquarters, was speaking, and he was describing a member of our region as being, when you go bowling, and they can put the bumpers up, and he was describing that person as the bumpers. We're each other's bumpers, right? We're desperately trying to get that strike, but we bounce off each other. We are called to practice compassion, devoted to be of benefit to others. That is it. And I know that things come up in us, like me, little me, who am I, what? I can't do that much. We get caught up in our limitations. We get caught up in our smallness. We get caught up in our humanness. And I found this quote by Dorothy Day. People ask, what is the sense of our small effort? The answer is we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. There is no small in the mind of God. Doesn't exist. So every step that we take, even if it feels like you're falling over, even if it feels like you're banging into everybody else, every step you take with the intention to be the compassionate space and of benefit to others, that has ripples everywhere. And again, I'm going to say this again. When we talk about being a compassionate space and benefit to others, we are not talking about becoming a doormat. We are not talking about having to sort of sacrifice our authentic awareness of what is ours to do. Can you feel that? That's truly what compassionate boundaries are. That we're aware of what is mine to do, and we're aware of how we're supporting someone else do what is theirs to do. And that is the place of compassion. I had a friend tell me once, compassion isn't always kind, right? Kindness can be enabling. Compassion can be empowering. But the person who's experiencing your compassionate boundary might not feel, right? They're feeling something. But we need to stand in that. That's the practice. We keep going back. Was I truly compassionate? Was that truly my boundary? We keep asking ourselves, we reserve the right to change our mind. Oh, that really wasn't about a compassionate boundary. That was about me being afraid. Next time, because we're all in this together, training wheels and all, next time I'm going to really explore what is the limit of my compassionate boundary. Does that make sense to everyone? So What I love about this is it's another way in. If you do nothing with the book, and I believe there's still a few left in the bookstore, at the end of every chapter, he just lists practices, ways to show up in each of these perfections. They're accessible whether you've read the book or not. Practice. This is what we're here, is to step into this space so that we can grow in our understanding, and we can truly make this a world that works for everyone. I don't know about you, but that's my vision. I want this world to work for everyone, not just for some of us. I want it to work for everyone. So Myrtle says, it's not always best for a person to continue doing that which they like to do, or that for which they have been trained. We need to round out, to develop all our faculties and powers to do what brings us close to humanity and increases what the world needs most. This isn't about us. This isn't about what I want, right? This is about how can I bring my authentic gifts and talents to the world. And where I feel like I don't have a whole lot of mastery, guess what? That's where you get to step in and grow. And as you grow, you discover more about yourself, but we're not focused on the self, because all that does is continue the illusion. Our growth is to be in service to the greater community. Can you feel the difference there? And this is an evolution for New Thought, because if you go back to like the 80s, it was all about like, I'm going to use New Thought principles to buy a new house. And I'm going to use New Thought principles to get a new car. And I'm going to use New Thought principles so I can be prosperous and abundant. We can absolutely use these principles for all those things. It's not that we can't, it's that it doesn't end there. That's not the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is to better understand prosperity and abundance so that I can bring that understanding to the world, so that people who are struggling with lack and not enough have something to light their way. Yes? It's not just about what I get. It's about what I can now give to the world because I grew and I learned something. So let's take all this into our time of meditation. Emptiness and all. So we breathe, that breath, the idea of being still. It's a foundational practice because in the stillness, we often, for the first time, actually hear what is alive within us. We're able to shift our focus from the doingness in the world and allow ourselves to be still. Noticing the places that are in need of healing within ourselves, but we know that we're not the only ones in need of healing. Whatever it is that you are in the midst of navigating, there are millions of other beings on this planet that are in the midst of navigating it too. So in this moment, I'm offering the invitation to let go of your own being, to welcome emptiness, and to know that that emptiness is actually full with interbeing, connection, others. Just welcoming how large we actually are allowing ourselves to touch the infinite spaciousness as we allow love and understanding to work us, that we may be the presence on this planet, a presence of compassion and a presence of love and a presence of light. So let's rest here for a few moments as that presence, as love and understanding. How good it is to just set an intention to release the separation, to release our idea of independent essence, to release the idea of our own being, and to welcome love, that unifying presence that is our true nature and our true name, welcoming our awareness of that interbeingness. And I invite us right now to just feel the love radiating forth from you everywhere. And feel the nourishment of the love that is resourcing and renewing you right now. The inexhaustible resources of spirit are equal to every demand. How good it is to know that as we say yes to being a place of transformation, growth, insight, and new ideas, that we are part of how this world is changed for the better. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.